My name is Justin Yingling, and I was born February 11th, 1974. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, from a small town called Oakmont. I grew up without my father, who left when I was about 3 years old. Around the age of 7 or 8, my mother remarried, and I remember not liking the idea of having any other father other than my own around. I had a pretty hard time in school, all the way from 3rd grade to 11th grade, where I finally dropped out at the age of 18. Just prior to quitting school is when I had my first experience with getting drunk. And like I've heard so many others say, it gave me that confidence that I never had. And so naturally for me, I was drinking as often as possible. I got my first DUI while I was still 18. I had other DUIs, public intoxications, disorderly conducts, as well as family problems, and injuring myself quite a few times while I was drinking. I was a mess, to say the least. This all went on pretty much throughout my entire adult life. Along the way, I was fortunate enough to have been blessed with 2 sons. As a result of my drinking, I was not being the father that they both needed. I was doing the bare minimum, which was going to work each day, but other than that, I was not being much of a father. Then one morning, in the middle of my mess, at home alone, because my family had left me, I got on my knees in my living room and I literally cried out to God. I begged Him for help. After praying to God and asking for help, I then called around to see if any programs had any room available, and none of them did. About 5 minutes later, the phone rang, and it was my brother's wife, who started to tell me about this place called the Star of Hope, and how a friend of hers had gone there years ago, and how that friend had completely changed her life around. So I called, and I ended up on the phone with Dr. Bucklew. After he had explained the program to me, and then prayed with me on the phone, I felt that this is where God wanted me. So I joined the spiritual recovery program at the Star of Hope. I had tried other rehab facilities and had brief periods of sobriety and being in line with what I believe God had expected of me. And these times were always good because the Lord is good, but I always ended up going back to my old ways. So basically, I always ended up running from God. As a result of coming to the Star of Hope, a lot has changed in my life as far as my walk with the Lord. I had said most of my life that I believe in Jesus. My definition of believe was that I believed He was there, which I did, but I was not believing in Him. I was not truly trusting in Him and allowing Him to be Lord of my life. The Star of Hope gave me a chance, without the normal everyday stress of life, to take a serious look at myself and to truly work on and better develop my relationship with the Lord. I began trusting Him and doing what the Bible said. I prayed for people I couldn't stand, and I admitted to God as I was praying for them that I was only doing it because it's what He asked of me. Well, obviously that was enough, because things started to change. As a result of the power of God and my best effort to listen to Him, my life has changed. I have learned to trust God, and I know that He is ultimately in control. I'd like to share just a little of what God has been doing in my life as a result of me putting my trust in Him. His Word says that He will give us the desires of our heart. One big desire that I have is to play an active role in my kids' lives. And so I'm trusting in God to bring that about. I know that He will, because I know what it's like to not have a father, and I do not believe God will allow that to happen to my children at my expense. That is not the God that I know. So I know and trust that this will happen in His time. And in fact, I was recently granted visitation through the court system. So I am thankful to still have the opportunity to instill in my children what it means to be a real man, something that has taken me 35 plus years to understand and begin to grasp. Another desire I had was to start my own remodeling and handyman business. I had God's favor, and so it slowly started to happen. It started out with a job here and there, but then it started to pick up fairly quickly. At this point, because I needed some help, I was actually able to hire a few of the men at the Star of Hope while they were looking for full-time employment. I am currently a little over halfway through my second year in business, and it continues to grow each day. I would like to share a story about a job I did as a testimony of what God has done in my life and how He is helping me be the person He created me to be and how He continues to bless me. It was my first customer in a very upscale neighborhood, and everything that could go wrong did go wrong. I remember thinking to myself, I want to give up, even though that was not an option. I eventually got through it, and the finished product looked great. When we were settling up on the bill, the homeowner asked me to come inside, and she proceeded to tell me how much she had appreciated my honesty and that people like me were virtually impossible to find in this business. She said, I was a man of integrity. This was really hard for me to hear, and I recall I had to fight back the tears. I am thankful God has helped me be this person I just described. Not so long ago, there was a point in my life where I basically accepted that I was never going to be able to stop, that I was going to wake up one day 80 years old and have completely wasted my life. I don't have to think that way today. Today I think, man, I have lived more in these last 2.5 years of sobriety than I have in my whole existence. And that's no exaggeration. And so I want to thank you all very much for helping me change my life into something worth living. Thank you.